Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Improv Gaming. And on this episode, we talk about whether or not Bethesda can single-handedly save VR, because it seems like it's the only company really back in the fucking system. Pete, I throw the ball in your court.
Not so easy, though, is it? I want to thank you, Nick, for having me on the show.
Pete, it is always a pleasure whenever
Very
you come
big
here.
fan.
Let me tell you, Pete, we are always happy whenever you're around. All right?
Thank you.
I'm going to Jimmy Fallon this. You're the greatest. We love you so much. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Exactly. No, Bethesda.
Pete, after this, we're going to play a game. It's going to be sing that song in a different genre.
I have a quick. I know this is total aside, but hold on. Why did the chicken cross the road?
Why?
To get to your house.
What?
Knock, knock.
Oh, God, no. No.
Knock, knock.
No, not happening. No. Who's there?
The chicken. I heard that today. I lost my shit.
God.
I'm dead ass doing inventory, and then my boy goes, "Why'd the chicken cross the road? Why? To get to your house? Oh, knock knock. Who's there? The chicken." Come on. Anyway, so Bethesda has chickens. Pete's way.
How does Bethesda single-handedly save VR, Pete? Tell me.
Well,
based off of what we saw at now, we're kind of basing this off of what we saw at E3.
Mm-hmm. You have Doom VR, you have Fallout VR, and you have Skyrim VR coming.
Okay, so why don't we talk about those three titles first, right? We have Doom VR, right? So based off of what you saw on Doom VR, how do you feel about the success of Bethesda working on a Doom VR, bringing some energy back into the VR atmosphere or environment?
I like it, and I like how it traverses. Because if you look, you point to a spot, and you get transported there. So it's not like using the control. Like, you use it to some degree, I believe. But it's also, it adds that immersion where it's like, okay, I'm in Mars, I'm in an alien, and then you have these attacks, and you're like, oh my God, he's coming right at me. And it adds much more depth. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited for what Doom can do, because that is, you have, to broaden this a little bit, you have three dynamic games right here. You have a first-person, basically alien monster game.
Yeah, a first-person shooter. Shoot 'em up.
Well, then you have a first-person shooter in Fallout.
Well, that's more of an RPG kind of game.
Also very first-person. You're going to be playing
Well, it could be third-person. You could still do VR. I mean, I know you wouldn't. That makes no sense. Yeah. But, I mean, it's still the influence on Fallout is more heavily RPG because of the VAT system and the upgrading and stuff like that. And actually, a lot of the anger from gamers comes from how finely tuned the first-person shooting became, because you weren't supposed to rely on it so easily. So a lot of the hatred that we get from like fanboys is that, no, this isn't a Fallout. This isn't a Fallout. The dynamics are too good. Shut up. They're too good.
So then you have the Fallout post-apocalyptic, and of course, then you have the fantasy realm of Skyrim.
Yes.
So you have three different worlds that you can really get behind with VR. Because a lot of people go, there's not a lot of diversity in VR. A lot of people played Batman VR, they played Job Simulator, they played Resident Evil, and they played Tekken. I don't know if you know this, I platinum Tekken. But that's a sidebar for another time. But you have these three diverse...
For every time.
these three diverse games that basically Bethesda is appealing to each VR
If I may interrupt you after you're done.
Of course.
Is Fallout and Skyrim really that different of a game, though?
I mean, Skyrim's been through how many fucking redesigns and remasters and this and that?
I mean,
the game came out 6 years ago.
They're pretty much exactly the same game. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I opened up Fallout for the first time, because it was the first time I ever played a Fallout title, I had just gotten off of Skyrim, and I was like, I'm playing the exact same game. It felt very much like that, So in my opinion, it's two differences, right? There's the difference of environment that you can be in, right? There's hell, there's future post-apocalyptic, and then there's fantasy past. But in terms of gameplay, there's generally, to me, there's just two different ways to play, right? One is the Fallout or the Doom, and the other one is the Fallout Skyrim. What excites me about this, if I may kind of interrupt your thing that you were going
and
touch you delicately. If I may interrupt it. Oh, well, I know how you like it, baby. What excites me about it is that Bethesda it seems like they're trying to experiment with different ways to maneuver in VR, which gives you which is great because of the fact that Bethesda can kind of risk like Doom bailing, right? The Doom VR could be shit. Who cares? It's a Doom VR. It's not Doom. So that could be a shit way of traversing the environment.
Yeah.
And they're not really suffering any loss on their next Doom game, right? Doom 2 comes out and they're like, yeah, it's not VR. It's the same Doom that you played and you fell in love with. We're just doing it again. They really suffer nothing from that. Same thing can be said for Fallout and Skyrim. But I feel very much that Fallout and Skyrim are going to play very similar to the way that they played before. It's going to feel very similar. It's just going to be more immersive because you've got headphones. You're kind of closed off from the entire world. You're not even seeing a television screen. You're in this world and you're going to experience it.
Well, the two that excite me is, and I was touching on this earlier, was Doom with the, transport to that area, and then shoot and everything. And I think for me, I love me some swords. So I think Skyrim really might also gravitate towards me because then you have the swinging and the shield and all that, or making magic and that seems so cool. It's similar to, and we're not much Xbox people, but when Fable Legend was coming out, and you basically had to connect to make little potions and little fireballs. So it feels like that, but it's more. You're more in to the world. So you look to the left and you see a house, and I feel like Skyrim really could bring people in, and you got to see that Skyrim after 6 years going to the Switch.
Yeah,
it's portable now. Going to VR, this game is just, it has so much life. I was reading Game Informer magazine the other day, and it's going over the top 100 RPGs of all time. What do you think number one was?
Skyrim. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And some that I was really this was so Knights of the Old Republic was up in the 50s, and I was like, I don't know, I enjoyed that RPG. Horizon Zero Dawn was 60 or 78. Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, number 5. Respectable.
But
What
were the top 5? Do you remember? Skyrim was no one.
Skyrim, Final Fantasy 6 was up there.
Okay.
Contra? No. I would have to bring it. I don't remember offhand.
Okay.
Fallout 3, I think, was up there too.
Okay.
And then, but they had Kingdom Hearts and certain stuff.
Yeah, but
Final Fantasy 7 though was 10. That's how
Final Fantasy 7 was widely received by the population, but it was a dumbed down RPG. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So not a dumbed down. I don't want to offend anybody that loves Final Fantasy 7 because I do love Final Fantasy 7.
When's that episode 1 coming, Nick?
Huh?
When's the episode 1 for Final Fantasy 7 remake coming?
I have no idea. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's never coming.
But it was a toned down RPG where it was a lot easier to kind of manage everything. It was a bit. There wasn't as much of a steep learning curve when you're dealing with stuff like Dungeons and Dragons. Because that's what RPGs are, is trying to take that Dungeons and Dragons atmosphere. And bring it into the real world, and that's where you get RTS, and that's where you get RPGs, is from that environment, trying to bring that Dungeons and Dragons back into a virtual world. So it didn't have all the dynamics of that, but it had some of it. You don't have to roll a dice and count your steps and stuff like that, but you still have to wait your turn and things like that.
Two magic.
Yeah.
But we come back to, with all of what Bethesda's doing, do you think that other companies will jump on board?
I'm not sure, because it feels like Bethesda is very much spreading themselves out thin, right? They're putting out support for the Switch, right, in the Skyrim. They're putting out support for the VR, but their presentation at E3 was lackluster. And the past couple of E3s, I've been very impressed by them. But I wasn't as impressed this time around. And it felt very much like, okay, so you've got all these projects going on where you're trying to port it to the Switch. You're trying to do a bunch of things with VR and all that stuff. And you're getting behind all these new technologies. But what about just classic games, classically good games? Just producing some classically entertaining games like Dishonored and the stuff like that.
Well, Wolfenstein 2 is coming out this year.
Yeah, we've got Wolfenstein 2. We've got
Evil Within 2.
Evil Within in the works. So it's nice to see that they're still focusing on that, but again, still very lackluster, right? Like Evil Within, how that was a cult classic, right? People that played
it now.
People that played it liked it, but not a lot of people played it.
It's not bad.
You get what I'm? But no, I know. But you get what I'm saying. Like that's the definition of a cult classic. Of a cult classic is that people that played it loved it. They enjoyed it so much, but nobody played it. So where's your wow factor, right? Wolfenstein. People that played it liked it.
It was all right.
But
it was all right. It's all right.
You know, but where's your wow factor? Like, okay, Wolfenstein, that's cool, whatever.
They don't have their Fallout or Skyrim.
They don't have a huge title, something brand new besides Quake Legends.
Yeah.
Right? Or Quake Champions, I'm sorry. Quake Champions. Which, like, okay, you told us that last year, so we're good. We already know that that's coming. So it just kind of makes me afraid because what happens if Bethesda spreads themselves out too thinly and then now they're not the leader of the pack. Now they just fall behind.
Now the VR doesn't work as well as it should, or the Switch on the Skyrim doesn't work. Yeah. And then that takes away. Because Machine Games is behind Wolfenstein, and then Tango Works is behind Evil Within 2. So you have, the main Bethesda, Todd Howard team, definitely working on the next Elder Scrolls. That's pretty much set in stone. They just won't say it.
Yeah.
So you have all of the other Bethesda studio working on this VR and the Switch and trying to make it work. So it's a real big thing because if Bethesda can deliver, which I feel like they can, I definitely think they can in VR, it will be interesting to see who jumps next, which I think will be Ubisoft.
Yeah, I could see that happening. But again, my concern is if they fall flat on their face, then where does that leave them in terms of the race,
And VR in general.
Well, who cares about VR, right? Like, I care about just gaming in general, right? VR is just an offset of video games.
Yeah.
So if Bethesda puts all these resources into these side projects like Nintendo Switch, no offense, right now, Nintendo Switch is a side project. And VR for these 3 titles, they come back to Fallout, after they've already released all these. And then the brand recognition and the faith in the brand is damaged to the point where it doesn't make as much of an impact. And now Bethesda can't be the front runner. Now Bethesda has to follow the lead of somebody else and try to propel themselves off of that lead or off of that person. That's my fear. That's kind of my fear. Because I very much have a lot of respect for what Todd Howard and Bethesda are doing in terms of the industry. They're putting out quality games. Prey, not necessarily the best of their work, but you're allowed a couple of falters on your way to greatness, So let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if you agree with Pete, if you agree with Nick. I mean, not that I really disagree with you. I hope that they do a very good job.
I think they will.
Yeah. I'm just, do you see Pete's point of view? Do you see my point of view? Let us know in the comments below. Below. I'm just suspenseful delay. Suspenseful delay. If you didn't know, I'm always joined by the host with the most.
You might get gargled.
You wanna try that one again?
You might mess up the diaphragm of the mic.
Okay.
Did I get that right?
Yeah. You were
right, I did.
You were pretty close. If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by the host with the most, Mr. I'm Wondering himself, with the Kango cap in tow. It's Mr. Peter Anderson.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're welcome,
Nick.
Pete.
I can't wait to be here.
I can't wait to see you again.
Invite me anytime.
Anytime. You're always welcome on this stage, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
No problem. I appreciate you.
I'm always joined with the best ponytail in the business.
It's fabulous.
As I live and breathe, his name is Nicholas De Jesus.
As he lives and breathes. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen?
We are ImprovGamers. We come to you every Tuesday and Thursday.
And Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time with news, new games, and topic of the show. Could be a casual conversation. Could be more. Could be less. Who knows?
Stay tuned on
You'll
Sundays.
have to tune in to find out. If you like what you saw, ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. And as always, game on.
Yeah.